And soft on crime DAs shouldn't matter. If young men are willing to beat someone or chase them down in a car for kicks, simply locking people up will not solve the problem. Shermichael Singleton is here, political consultant, Sirius XM radio show host. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks.
Am I onto something?
I think you are. I think culpability is clearly there, and so we have to transition to responsibility. Responsibility for the young people to understand the importance of morals and ethics and structure. The responsibility of the parents to understand that they have a responsibility to raise their children properly. It's not the government's role. It's not Shermichael Singleton's role. Now, perhaps my role is to mentor, of course, to give opportunity, to guide. But it ultimately falls on the parents. And I would finally say on the political leaders to keep the community safe. I mean, we're seeing what's happening in San Francisco, for example, Leland, where stores are leaving. I'll point to Washington, D.C., where we are. I recently read a story about a month or two ago where Giant, the only grocery store in Southeast D.C., is considering leaving the area because so many people are stealing things out of the store. They're spending almost $1 million a year. So you end up harming the very people who look like you. And I don't think that's right. And I think most people would agree that we have to solve this problem.
So there's two issues here, right? There's you end up harming the people who look like you in terms of the stores leaving and the food deserts that get worse and worse.
Jobs gone.
And worse. And the jobs that leave. But then you think about the people who are looting and robbing. They grow up, they have kids.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that they're going to raise their kids any better. The cycle keeps going down.
Cyclical. It becomes a perpetual cycle. And you always hear this thing about like the revolving door around crime, right? Well, the only way you can stop the revolving door is by, one, holding people accountable. I think we do have to have some honest conversations about the family unit and structure. And I know it's hard. I know it's uncomfortable. And we can have that talk. I think we have to talk about
why is when you start talking about fatherless households, regardless of race, being the single leading indicator of criminal activity among America's youth? You say that, and it is game over. Nobody wants to talk about it. Why is that?
You know, Leland, I think because it forces people to accept that we've all failed. I have to be honest. I think it forces people to realize they haven't gone far enough in terms of our leaders. It forces people to look at the church, the black church in particular, which was once upon a time a beacon in the African-American community. Now it's about pastors who are enriching themselves and less about trying to improve the status of the community.
But this way, black pastors would not be the first pastors to try to enrich themselves.
They're not, but I'm just making a point here in terms of historic correlation. And so I think when you point to those variables, it's a lot easier to say, well, we need more funding or we need less police. And the reality is when you check the trajectory of all of those things, it doesn't correlate to safer communities. It doesn't correlate to more wholesome families. It doesn't correlate to black youth in particular having a greater advantage going off to college or whatever skill or trade they ultimately decide to get. And so for me as an African-American, man, I want to see my community do well. That's important for me. But I also recognize while it's easy to look at some of the faults that we may have in terms of government, I think we have to address, Leland, some of our own internal struggles. And people have to be willing and open and honest to have those conversations.
Yeah, well, you'd be one of the few, at least, that we found that are willing to have the open and honest in conversations. Brandon Johnson does not seem so ready.
He doesn't. I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Good to see you. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.